Ed Stivender, please introduce yourself fully and tell us about your work and please tell us a story.
Yes, I am a storyteller. My main deal is folklore. I also wrote a book called Raised Catholic, Can You Tell? And I sometimes tell stories from that. I have been part of an organization called Myth America, which is, we did a radio show in Hartford, Connecticut at one time. I am a mummer, a Philadelphia mummer, and it's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. The land on which I speak is called Eastern Pennsylvania. William Penn, the original proprietor of this land, was embarrassed by the name and he preferred to call it South Wales. However, it was tilled and tended and hunted upon for centuries before he came and made a treaty with the Lenni Lenape people, a treaty never broken and a treaty never written down. It is in the awareness of the Lenni Lenape people that we call this area Lenapehoking. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shabbat shalom. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum. Howdy, my name is Jack. I'd like to tell you a story about one time when I went out to seek my fortune. I said to my mama, Mama, I'm going out to seek my fortune. She said to me, you be careful, Jack. You don't talk to no strangers on the road. You take good care of yourself. I said, don't worry about me, Mama. I'll be all right. So I started down the road to seek my fortune. Well, I got down that road about a mile or so when all of a sudden I heard a terrible mournful sound. Went like this. Oh, oh. Turned around the corner and there, sure enough, standing by the side of the road with his head hung low and his big gray eyes feeling sorry for himself was an old mule. I said, howdy, Mr. Mule. What seems to be the problem with you this morning? Mr. Mule looked up at me with his sad gray eyes and said, oh, Jack, my master says I'm too old to be of any use to him. So tomorrow he is going to take me to the glue factory and have me be made into glue. Oh. I said, Mr. Mule, we can't let that happen to you. I got a great idea. I'm going out to seek my fortune, and if you're of a bind, you can come too. Mr. Mule perked up his eyes, perked up his ears, and he came along with me. So now there were two of us walking down the road to seek our fortune, with me in the front, followed by We got down that road about a mile or so, when all of a sudden we heard another mournful sound. Went like this. Turned around the corner and there, sure enough, sitting by the side of the road with his head hung low on his paws, feeling sorry for himself, big brown eyes all teary, was an old dog. I said, howdy, Mr. Dog. What seems to be the problem with you this morning? Mr. Dog looked up at me with his sad brown eyes and said, oh, Jack, my master says I'm too old to be of any use to him. So tomorrow he's going to take me to the Humane Society, and there ain't nothing humane about that. Mr. Dog, we can't let that happen to you. I got a great idea. I'm going out to seek my fortune. Mr. Mule's going with me, and if you're of a mind, you can come too. Mr. Dog perked up his eyes, perked up his ears. He came along with us. So now there were three of us walking down that road to seek our fortune. With me in the front, followed by followed by We got down that road about a mile or so, and all of a sudden we heard another mournful sound. Went like this. Meow, meow. Turned around the corner, looked up in the tree. There's old Ms. Cat looking down at me. I said, howdy, Ms. Cat. What seems to be the problem with you this morning? Ms. Cat looked down at me with her sad green eyes and said, oh, Jack, my master says I'm too old to be of any use to him. So tomorrow he's going to put me in a burlap bag with stones in it and drop me to the bottom of the Bay of Bengal. Meow. I said, Ms. Cat, we can't let that happen to you. I got a great idea. Going out to seek my fortune. Mr. Mule's going with me. Mr. Dog's going with me. And if you're of a mind, you can come too. Ms. Cat perked up her eyes, perked up her ears, jumped out of her tree. She came along with us, so now there were 4 of us walking down that road to seek our fortune. Me in the front, followed by, followed by, meow, 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 meow. We got down that road about a mile or so, when all of a sudden we heard another mournful sound. It went like this. Cock-a-doodle, boo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Cock-a-doodle, boo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Turned around the corner, and there, standing on a fence post with his big beady eyes, feeling sorry for himself, was an old rooster. I said, "Howdy, Mr. Rooster. What seems to be the problem with you this morning?" Mr. Rooster looked up at me with his sad, beady eyes and said, "Oh, Bucka Jack, my master says I'm too old to be of any use to him. So tomorrow he's going to have a rooster stew for dinner, and I think I'm going to be the guest of honor." Bucka! "Mr. Rooster, we can't let that happen to you. I got a great idea. Going out to seek my fortune. Mr. Mule's going with me. Mr. Dog's going with me. Ms. Cat's going with me. And if you're of a mind, you can come too." Mr. Rooster perked up his eyes, perked up his ears, his teeny little ears. He came along with us. So now there were 5 of us walking down that road to seek our fortune, with me in the front, followed by, followed by, followed by, meow, 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 followed by, cock-a-doodle, yahoo! Cock-a-doodle, yahoo! We got down that road about a mile or so, and all of a sudden, everything started getting real dark. The moss was hanging off the trees into our faces. The path was getting smaller and smaller. I figured we were goners, when all of a sudden, we came upon an old ramshackly house by the side of the forest. We tiptoed up on that house, looked in the window, and there we saw on the kitchen table a pile of gold coins piled all the way to the ceiling. I said to my friends, "Friends, this must be the house of some robbers who have gone back downtown to get some more loot. Let's go inside and see how much money they got." So we tiptoed around to the front door, opened it. Tiptoed inside, started counting up on the money. We had that money about half counted, when all of a sudden, we heard another mournful sound. It went like this. "Har, har, 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 we are the robbers. We're very, very mean. We're the meanest robbers you ever seen. When we find someone that we don't like, we kick them in the stomach and steal their bike." Looked out the window, and there I saw coming up the path 10 of the meanest, ugliest looking robbers I'd ever seen in my life. The shortest one of them was 8'8". Tallest one was 13'3¼ inches. He was so mean and ugly, his face looked like hamburger. I said to my friends, "Friends, we're in big trouble. Ms. Cat, would you hide in the fireplace?" She did. "Mr. Dog, would you hide in the cupboard?" He did. "Mr. Mule, would you stand by the front door?" He did. "Mr. Rooster, come inside the chimney." And he did. I stood back in a dark corner to see what would happen. And the meanest, ugliest looking robber of them all came up to the front door, slammed it open, walked inside. It was too dark for him to see anything, so he walked over to the fireplace to blow on the old embers to get some light, and he blew right into Ms. Cat's face. Well, Ms. Cat opened her eyes. You know how cats' eyes glow in the dark sometimes? He figured it was the glowing embers. He blew twice as hard right into her face. She couldn't take it any longer. She took out her claws and went for his eyes. Well, just then Mr. Dog comes out of the cupboard, starts chawing on his leg. He goes for the front door, just as Mr. Mule gets him right in the woo, and down the path he goes, as Mr. Rooster says, "Cock-a-doodle woo, cock-a-doodle woo, cock-a-doodle woo." That our robber got his 9 friends. They started running and running and running. We ain't seen hide nor hair of them since. Me and my 4 friends walked back inside that place. We divided that money by 5. Took my share home to my mama. Had a real good Christmas that year. My 4 friends, they decided to stay on that old place. Made a real nice farm for themselves too, with carrots and corn and potatoes. Matter of fact, if you ever get up real early in the morning and listen real close, you might be able to hear my rooster friend saying, "Cock-a-doodle, yahoo!" That's the story of Jack and the Robbers. People say, hey, boy, I wish I could tell that story of Jack and the Robbers, but I don't know how to do those complex animal motions. Well, I'd like to teach you how to do those complex animal motions. Well, let's all stand up. We'll take our arms behind our back, lean over from our waist, stamp our feet, and go hee-haw, hee-haw. Ready? Here we go. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. The dog is my favorite. Dog has two paws like this, one after another, and two things that wag, front thing and a back thing. Are you ready? Let's wag. Very good. Take your claws to be the cat. Meow, meow, meow. Rooster. Cock-a-doodle yahoo! Cock-a-doodle yahoo! So there, you've learned this, some of the moves of that story, and you can do it on your own. So, are there any questions?
I have a comment. Ed, hi, I'm Radhika from Sri Lanka. I'm a storyteller. Oh my God, Ed, I love you. It is so cute. I loved it so much.
Thank you.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
God, loved it.
Thank you very much.
I never had that version ever. Oh, you're such an inspiration.
Oh, thank you very much. Good luck and using it in any way you can. You certainly it's there. I didn't make up the motifs. Jack came from the English Scottish tradition, and the Bremerton musicians was the source of those animals. Put it together, and now have fun with it if you feel like doing it.
Thank you.
Ed, I want to jump in and say, I don't know if you would remember me, but you've always been an inspiration. I first heard you back in the early 90s when you came and told in San Diego in Vicky's storytelling sequence. Yes. And I was just getting into storytelling, and I remember you talking about our embrace of the audience, and I've always held you up. It's Barry Man.
Oh, Barry, yeah, great. Oh, good to see you again, Barry. Boy, those were wonderful times at San Diego. I had great fun.
Yeah, that was great. Vicky had that whole sequence, and I just remember you coming in and just wowing with your stories.
Oh, well, I had fun.
You do it again. Yeah.
Thank you, Barry. I'm honored by your presence and your comments. And I have great memories of those old days with Vicky Reed. It was a wonderful program.
Of course, that's a very famous and popular story type. Tale type. The character who's going to make his or her way in the world and picking up friends or allies along the way and being kind to them and developing a reciprocal kind relationship. And then when it comes for the final sequence, each character uses its own nature, its own specialty. And they come together as a team. So it's the generosity and magnetism of the main character who brings everybody together that ends up helping everybody.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There are many stories like that.
Ed, I have a question now that you mentioned about Jack, because I also do Scottish storytelling, folk tales and stuff. What made you marry Jack from the Scottish tradition with the musicians of Bremen? What was your
that's a great question, and it has to do with working with a group called the Plum Cake Players Children's Theater in Hartford, Connecticut, in my salad days a while back. And we used Paul Sill's story theater techniques, Viola Spolin's techniques of mime, and so that's where the movements of the animals came from. The story of Jack and the Robbers shows up in a book by Richard Chase called The Jack Tales, and Richard Chase took the traditional motifs that came from Beech Mountain, North Carolina, and thereabout, and so that the Jack and those animals were already together in a traditional version of a tale. When I wanted to move beyond the Plum Cake Players Children's Theater and do it on my own, I did all the characters myself and didn't have the other members of the Plum Cake Players. and I made one primary change. Those of you who know the Anglo stories, a storyteller about Jack, telling about a traditional storyteller talking about Jack would never say he was Jack. He was always third person because Jack is a fool. I made a very simple decision to make it from the first person point of view, and that allowed me to encapsulate all the other characters in the thing. So that was really the only change I made. But the traditional version, there is a traditional version of the mountains. But thank you very much for asking that question. It's a good question.
I'd like to jump in and add that, Ed, I think this story is just a wonderful example of what I think of as virtuosity, and you make it seem so seamless, but the way that you almost come across like a one-man band with like a cymbal on your head and a clacker on your foot, or, you're just using your entire instrument with sounds, with voices, with gesture, with movement. I don't remember exactly where it was in the story, but there's one point where the rhythm of your feet and your hands and your vocal expression just melded together really well. And you make it look so simple, but I know that it's fairly complicated and takes some rehearsal for it to seem so seamless.
Thank you,
Thanks
Barry.
for
I'm honored by
modeling
that.
Yeah.
The problem is I really don't know how to rehearse. So the only rehearsal I get is in front of an audience. So I'd like to thank the audiences of the last 30 years that have helped me put that piece together. And there are even individual moments where the audience was very helpful, like teeny little eyes or teeny little ears. The audience led me into that thing. So, but thank you, Barry. Okay, thanks you guys for showing up. It's been a great pleasure. International storytelling at 7 o'clock in the morning from Pennsylvania. It's what a great honor. What a great fun.
When I am working with storytellers, I encourage them to combine the stereotypical animal sound with human language, whatever language it is. And you did an excellent example of that, 4 different excellent examples, plus the body movements, the stereotypical body movements of the 4 animals. So you really did a clinic for us.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.